Welcome to this special edition Monday trade breakdown and analysis. We're going to start with an AMD trade that ran for 365% plus today. And the idea here is to help you understand the markets better so you can better line up trades, understand market movement, price action, and better execute. So let's get started right away. So what you see in front of you is AMD, and we have a pattern on the page. But before we get there, I want to pull up a screenshot that I posted. Everything is 100% public, and this is on AMD breaking down. So if you looked at my post, this was from yesterday, of course, on the 24th, the watch list idea was for AMD, right? And AMD at that point was close to our target of 183.25. But I said specifically, I'm looking for a rejection here, but I'm watching the after hours for a breakdown that might change this trade idea. And then, of course, in the morning, I updated and I said, as stated, I was watching for an after hours breakdown. This happened as expected, but the move is justifiably extended beyond range. It's overextended for the puts idea. So we're no longer near the 183 rejection point, right? We'd gap down to almost 172. We'll update with a new idea if time permits, and I don't chase moves, meaning if I was looking to play puts, I had an idea for that. I'm not going to chase that after a $6 gap down on AMD. That's unreasonable. Now, did I have a crystal ball? Is it all mystified? Do you have to be some sort of professional and have access to a tremendous amount of information here? No. So AMD is under pressure in China. The Chinese government is looking at phasing out chips from AMD and Intel. So we knew there was going to be a move on the news. And if there wasn't a move, and if we got an early pop, it was a sell the news type of environment, right? Because that is bad news. So I was looking for that. Of course, happened in the after hours. And after hours, what can actually happen in these scenarios is you overextend. The move goes too far. And remember, after hour volume is not the same as intraday volume. So what do we see here? We see AMD, and this is something that I shared within Discord today for insiders. So that was the idea. You didn't see the calls move because that was an insiders only play, but I want to help everybody understand. So I looked at it and I said, this is overextended now. Not only am I not running with this idea for puts, as I canceled on X and I put out to everybody, I said it's canceled. I was looking for the move down. I got exactly what I was projecting. It's based on data. It's based on fundamentals. Guys, just a reminder, people who just talk about how fundamentals don't matter or technical doesn't matter or whatever doesn't matter, they're zealots. And it just means it's your way of saying, I don't understand something, so don't ask me about it. And let's pretend that fundamental data doesn't matter. Well, of course, if Intel or AMD loses a huge portion of their market or loses a lot of money because for a fundamental reason they're exited from a market, their chips are banned, of course the company's going to suffer, right? It's kind of like a major auto manufacturer having to recall all of their vehicles from their number one seller. So what do we see? We see a pattern here, which I've shared before online. And this is of course, you have an ascending triangle. But more importantly, we see rejection at the top here. We see support, rejection. And I felt like the move was overextended. And that's important. Because if the move isn't overextended, then I don't rely on just a technical pattern and say, okay, well, we'll play the charts. Because you could draw lines in a million and one ways. And that's the weakness of not understanding and being able to pair technical data with both fundamental stock-related data and the macro markets, right? So if we saw something huge from the Feds and they said, we see inflation coming back and we're actually going to look at hiking rates because we don't like the January, February print, this would have gone down. It would have broken through and no one would have cared about that. And the technical zealots would have said, well, it's resistance. That's what it is, right? So let's take a quick look at the actual note that set up the trade idea. And this is something I distributed this morning to insiders. This was at 8:24. Remember, I'm on Central Standard Time, so this is 6 minutes before markets open. Eastern Standard, that's 9:24. I said in case the cancel update doesn't come through, because sometimes you don't get updates from X, right? It takes a few minutes for the tweet or the post to come through. I scratched the X public AMD puts idea. An additional insider notes, I expected a breakdown on account of troubles in China, AMD and Intel being phased out. But a $6 move from 179 to 173 is too far down to chase with puts, and AMD is actually sitting right at its trend line for a move support. Oh, that should have said for a support move right now at open for a move support. Okay, so, and you can see that right on the chart, have it circled in green, right? That's looking for support, and that's the gap down. And then, of course, what do we see here from from AMD? Shoots right up, right? That's just hits right off support, touches down a little bit before the markets. Remember, these are the 1 hour charts, so part of it is pre-market, but then opens and just takes right off. And I said, we're looking for it right here at open. We're sitting at support, and you can pull up the contract. So how do you know it's a 300% or 200% move? I generally, and I've put out guidance on what my ideas are, right? So when you're working with my ideas, there's consistency. I hate this process that you see online where people just throw out random numbers and you say, well, how would you know to choose that contract? How would you know to work with that idea? I have full videos on X public. They've been up for years. I constantly retweet them. It's under my highlights tab on how to choose contracts, how I choose contracts for intraday trading. So it's all consistent. What the prices are. I don't like 5-cent contracts or 10-cent contracts. That's silly. So that someone could say, oh, it went up 100 times. Silly. There's poor liquidity. You can get stopped out too easy. So this one, kind of easy, right? So where do we start? We open almost exactly at 46. And if you wait another minute, sometimes I like to do that and I discuss the reasons for that with insiders. You're a little bit higher at 49, but you still catch this move. Runs up from 46 to 214. That's a 365% move. If you put in your calculators, it's going to be 465, but that's because it includes your initial investment. We're talking about ROI. So it's 465% of 46 cents, but the return on your investment, what you get back in addition to your investment, would be 365% of it. So that's what we had lined up this morning on AMD, and that was our reasoning, and I wanted to make it very clear. So just all the steps, fully transparent from the night before of saying, hey, I'm expecting, watching for a breakdown, the next morning say, too big of a move, and then moving over into insider access within Discord and saying, hey, look, I expected the breakdown. This is why we're overextended, and I see I see an opportunity for a bounce right at trend line for a support move, not move support. And then, of course, we always have a follow-up. I like to leave notes and say, and there's that support off the trend line for a huge early move on AMD, as shared to insiders exclusively. And I'll note this to everybody, it doesn't change the prospects for AMD, but there are points at which you can be bearish on a stock, but it's oversold and you look for a bounce. That doesn't mean that you're in it long term. That doesn't mean that you believe there's continuity. It simply means that you exploit an opportunity. And that's actually what I wrote here. As I said, it's overextended and sitting at support, create an opportunity, and we aim to exploit opportunity with these ideas. And that was 100% of what the idea was based upon, is simply exploiting an oversell during light volume conditions in after hours, working off trend, looking at the fundamentals and saying, that's a little bit too far, we're overextended. And now just a couple bonus ideas that we threw into the mix today. You probably noticed I also posted this. I said, fire morning so far. If you know, you know. Just a little tongue-in-cheek tip of the hat to some insiders, and you see some responses here. I'll explain a little bit more. So obviously, start the morning, blast move right off of AMD. We also worked with Lululemon. You see Lululemon contracts there. And Lululemon was a puts idea. And last night's video and this morning's reminder was Lulu short idea, selling calls vertical, right? Down $10 since open. The contracts fell from $551 to $141. So you capture the majority of that premium. And the reason this is interesting and I share it is because I just updated the Foundation of Options book. And that is 100% free. I'm not plugging some book for you to buy. It's 100% free. You can download it. It's in my bio link. I plastered it everywhere on X. 100% free for you to understand. And the most recent update was helping everybody understand how to work with spreads. So selling calls, vertical spreads, so that you can understand how to use those type of strategies. And this is one for insiders. We were bearish on Lululemon, selling calls. And so when you're selling calls, you want to see the price move down. And we could take a look at the action on Lululemon. Obeyed right off the open, right? So it was so perfect that price stayed exactly where it was. So when we put this idea out last night, great. Coming in today, we want the price to kind of maintain at the very least. And just a huge move down right off the bat. You know, we open at 405 and blast down over 10 points down to 493. And on the day, right, this is a new idea, on the day, down about 17 points, close at 388 from the open of 405. Of course, the calls that we're selling depreciate in value, and that's a good thing because when you're selling calls, you want them to eventually go to zero. That way you sell and collect the premium and you owe nothing to the buyer of the calls. That's the idea. But again, I explained it in the book. And the last one, just for kicks here, we had another idea. This is why I said fire morning, not to overwhelm everyone or overheat the crystal ball today. It's a joke. It's not a good joke because I don't have much of a sense of humor or personality, but I understand. Not to overheat the crystal ball today, but SMCI also smashed through our 1025 entry idea, now trading near 1050 and still running, and that kept going. So we just had an entry idea on SMCI, and as you can see here, we'll move over to SCMI, right? So from entry, yeah, the bottom would have been 968, but this was our breakout idea at 1025. I like that as a trade. And peaks out here, 73, pretty substantial, right? That's a $47 move, $48 move, excuse me, 48 plus to be frank, because of course it's 48 and 87 cents. Big, strong move. So we had those running, and that's why the tongue-in-cheek, hey, fire morning so far. And I usually won't post that. We just have our own trade ideas that are separate. But because we actually had a spillover between the ideas that we share within Insider Access and what I posted publicly on AMD, we played the other side of AMD. I wanted to share and help everybody better understand. So you understand a little bit more about what you're looking for on a sell the news type of event, but sometimes you get overextended when that happens in the after hours, and watch the after hours volume. That could be a little bit spotty. With Lululemon, just a reminder of how verticals work, how spreads work, and a reminder to pick up the options trading guide. That will guide you through it if you're not comfortable. If you are comfortable and you understand it, fantastic. And then finally, SMCI, just as a breakout idea. Not every idea is going to be a bounce or a rejection. Sometimes you just look for the momentum, catch it as it smashes through, and enjoy the ride. And we saw that opportunity today. So I hope that helps everybody. If you're interested in Insider Access, of course, you can always visit Profits Taken. And if nothing else, I will keep content coming for free. I've always said that I'm fully committed to doing that, and I will continue to do that. The program is entirely separate, and I get a great deal of satisfaction just from helping everyone learn online here, and I'll keep that up. All right, guys, have a great night.